Tonight, a first account of the conditions inside the Whipple building. That's where detainees are taken or people who have been arrested protesting. Several Minnesota lawmakers got to visit the center this weekend after a group of representatives were initially denied to go inside last month. Gordon talked to our Congresswoman Kelly Morrison and Senator Tina Smith today about the treatment of detainees that they say are inhumane at Whipple.
Every day, protesters gather outside the Whipple building near historic Fort Snelling.
Come and talk to us.
But besides detainees and federal agents, few people have gone beyond this line to see what's inside these walls.
What I saw in Whipple was incredibly disturbing.
Minnesota Congresswoman Kelly Morrison toured the Whipple building over the weekend, and she was surprised by the conditions.
There are people shackled in very cold cells. No beds, no blankets, minimal food.
Morrison says the detention area was mostly made of concrete floors, concrete walls, and concrete benches. She says there were single rooms and larger rooms that can hold upwards of 30 people. She spoke with 2 detainees while she was there, including a woman who was trying to contact her daughter.
She was alone, her legs were shackled. She looked very distraught. She told me that she and her husband had been taken that morning and their 7-year-old daughter had been left behind with a friend. And she was frantic, wanting to get in touch with her daughter. She had not been able to make a phone call yet.
Morrison says she was also concerned that during her visit, there wasn't a single medical professional inside the facility. She was told that DHS believes it's an acceptable practice because Whipple is considered a temporary holding facility and not a true detention center.
So this agent explained to me that once they're technically detained, which they are when they get to Texas, I guess, then they get medical care that they may need. Then it sort of seemed like their rights kicked in.
It is just completely inhumane.
Senator Tina Smith also toured the facility over the weekend, and she too is concerned that detainees may not receive proper medical care because she argues a lot of them are staying at the facility longer than just a few hours.
We know that that's not the case. There have been many, many reports to our office that folks have been there for a long time. And in fact, we spoke to people who'd been there for, 12, 14, even 24 hours.
Both Smith and Morrison agree that during their visits, they saw around 30 detainees. And both women argue that they likely didn't see the true reality of what's happening inside the facility, because they say they both had to give more than a week's notice to get inside.
When we see what some of these agents are willing to do in front of cameras, we all have to worry what they'd be willing to do behind closed doors. And since they had 8 days notice before my visit, I'm deeply concerned.
I reached out to Homeland Security to get their take on the conditions inside the Whipple building, but I have not received a reply. Morrison says the agency created a new policy last month that states that members of Congress must give a 7-day notice before they can visit a facility. Morrison and 12 other representatives sued DHS over that policy, and a judge recently granted a temporary restraining order that would temporarily give lawmakers access to this facility.
So does that mean all lawmakers in every state? Because I know that was an issue in Texas with Representative Castro trying to see Liam.
Morrison said her interpretation was that only she and the other 12 lawmakers who are on this lawsuit would have this temporary access, but they are hoping that eventually, if the judge sides their way, that all lawmakers, all members of Congress would have that immediate access to inspect these facilities.
All right, Gordon, thank you for that.